Emily, you can't move, Emily. You have to sit back there. All right. Bad juju. Sure. Again, thanks for joining us today. Little thoughts on Michigan State. Obviously, after watching the film, I think it was probably the best that we've played offense, defense, special teams in all three phases. Was not perfect by any means or any stretch, but I thought all three phases did some really good things in the game against Michigan State. But what excites me most is that we still have so much more room to grow as a team. And anytime you can come in and make corrections and show where we left a lot of meat on the bone per se when it comes to our execution in all three phases, it's definitely great to be able to grow from those things with a win. We've just got to continue to put the work in Monday through Friday like we talk about to be able to reap the benefits of the success on Saturday. And I think our guys have really bought into it. That mindset will continue to be the way that we prepare as we head into Purdue. When you talk about Purdue, I can tell you this is a team, really well-coached team. You watch the tape, they've lost, I think, 2 games by 1 score to 2 top 25 teams. The first game against Penn State, was a game that I thought had very easily could have gone in another direction for them. To go up and beat Minnesota, a big win for their program, and it's a testament, obviously, to the coaching staff and those players really believing. By far, when you look at them on offense, Aiden is a big-time quarterback, a guy that I think has a chance to play on Sundays, really talented, makes you defend the whole field. He's able to make every throw. He's got 2 talented receivers, and, Charlie and then number 3, both running backs, really tough to tackle, physical runners. And, they went up and they showed last week they have the ability to complementary run the football, and it was definitely one of the better teams that we'll face from top to bottom. When you look at them on defense, it is collectively probably one of the better defenses we face, and that's including, a couple of weeks ago facing Michigan. These guys are where they're supposed to be. They play with the right kind of effort. They don't give up cheap plays and big plays. They just kind of keep everything in front, and they really play with tremendous effort, which when you see teams play like that, a lot of that has to go to coaching. Obviously, this weekend is family weekend for us, and when we took this job, we talked about developing not a football team, but a football family, and that encompasses everyone involved with our program. And we're going to rally around the parents that are coming back to see their kids that become an extended family of our program, and really are hopeful that they come out, support us. An early kickoff here at noon against a really good opponent that will give us everything that we can ask for. And so our captains going into the Purdue game, Fanaje Gote, Rakim Jarrett, and Tarheeb Steele will lead us into this game as our game captains. And I guess with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Mike, the second halves that your defense has had this season, of the adjustments, the execution, could you address what has been the difference this year? And really, there's just been this different level that you guys have hit after halftime.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and this is what people do on offense. You script. Most people script openers, and when you script those openers, you get really exotic in the things you're looking to do because you want to stress the defense, and as we say, check their oil on how they adjust, how they align. So you see a bunch of motions, shifts, and some exotic formations, and it takes a minute to kind of calm down our defensive guys because we're still, we started 2 true freshmen at inside linebacker a week ago, 44 and number 1, and with all the things that people do in these openers where they know where they want to be, it's before they kind of get settled into what exactly they want to get accomplished during the game. It puts stress on the defense, and so our defensive staff has done a good job after being able to see the things that they're trying to get accomplished, settling our guys down and then coming up with the necessary adjustments to make sure we're sound. And so I think Coach Williams, the defensive staff, has really done a really good job after people get out of their openers of really being able to hone in and say, hey, here's what they're doing, and being able to paint the picture, get it drawn up for our guys on the sideline for them to be able to take the adjustments, including at halftime, which, like you said, the last 3 games, I thought we played really well in the second half on defense.
Hey, Mike. It's obviously going to be a lot of good receivers on the field in this game for both teams. I'm curious, what did you see that Minnesota did against Charlie Jones in particular? Because it seemed like they kept him a little bit more under control than maybe some other teams have.
Yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily what Minnesota did or the philosophy going into the game that Purdue had. It looked like to me they wanted to run the football, and they were able to line up. They got into some condensed formations. As I said, 38 and 45, the two running backs ran really physical. I mean, we are going to have to really tackle these guys because they're really strong runners, and usually when you have physical runners like that, it takes having a lot of guys to the ball. So I don't think it was as much something that they did to take him out because he's a talented receiver, really nifty in the slot. Their tight end, number 87, also is kind of one of those safety nets for the quarterback. So I thought it was more philosophically how Purdue wanted to run offense that game.
Hey, Coach. When you have a running back room the way, like one game Roman can go off, another game like last week Antoine can go off, what does that do for a defense when they have to kind of game plan to get for two different guys but don't know which one is going to have the hot hand?
It's funny you should say that because one of the things I've learned is the more diverse you are with spreading the ball. Like I know for us on defense, the first thing we look at is who they target with the football. And then you go about trying to find out ways to not allow them to target that guy. When you're diverse, and I think we had 10 different receivers that caught balls. We've got 4 running backs that are all contributing. Statistically, it's maybe not great for some of our great players that we have because maybe they're not being the focal point of 20 targets. But I just think the more diverse you are in who touches the ball, the more they have to defend on defense. And so we've got a bunch of talented players from the skill position, including the running back room, which we've talked about from the summer on. Of like we knew going into this season that we had our young running back group that was really talented, and I think it's really starting to show.
And just to follow up on that, you mentioned how young they are, redshirt freshmen, sophomores. I was wondering, what is your future outlook? I don't know, is that too early to tell, but what is your future outlook for them moving forward?
Just for them to play well in the Purdue game. I mean, it's really tough to really go beyond that because that's kind of philosophically how we're trying to build this thing one game at a time, and we'll deal with all the prognostications later when we have a little more time to unwind. But right now, I need those guys to play well going into the Purdue game, put the work in today, tomorrow, and then Saturday go out and perform.
Hey, Coach, kind of staying with the running backs. Antoine Littleton with another big game. What did you see from him on film that allowed him to be so successful?
It's the way he practices and prepares. Obviously, he's put himself in position with his, it's been much talked about his conditioning level, the weight loss, the way he runs. He's a load. As I said on Saturday, was disappointed that he ran out of gas there on the goal line and would have loved to see him stay on his feet and plow through and put one in, that's something I'm sure he'll put in his toolbox to understand that every play isn't an up and over. Sometimes you got to get down and dirty and just kind of put your pads, get behind your pads, which we'll learn from that. But really, I think it's just, he's one of those guys that we've known about him since he was a 7th or 8th grader. He's another one of these local products that, necessarily we got in on early and just continued to feed him the Maryland brand. And it's great when you see guys like him and Rakim and some of the other players that have come from this surrounding community just come here and have the type of success he's having. Hopefully it's inviting to others to join.
Hey, Coach, what have you seen from Johari Branch as he's moved to center this year? Both from, you knew he could block, but what have you seen from him as far as, making the calls and stuff like that?
One of our smartest O-linemen, a guy that really knows our system very well. We always talk about being strong down the middle, quarterback, center, nose guard, Mike linebacker, free safety. And by far, he's the guy that kind of is the glue for us up front, gets us in the right calls, gets us on the right people for the most part. He's kind of the bully of the group. He doesn't take anybody's stuff. He will fight you and really get after people during the course of a game, and not just the other team, but if he doesn't feel his teammates are holding up their end of the bargain, he's not afraid to step out and become one of those leaders that we've been trying to develop with the player-led culture, and he's one of those guys that we count on for that.
I have two. First, just a quick follow-up on Antoine. When he came in at the weight he was and was struggling with conditioning, were you just absolutely committed, like, yes, he can be a running back at this level? Was there any ever thought he would need to move? Or?
No, so, I mean, anybody that knows me knows my philosophy is I will never make a kid play a position they don't want to play. I mean, we moved Tank Booker over to guard during summer camp because we needed some help, and 3 days later, he was still sulking and like, I really don't want to do it, so we moved him back over. The only thing we told Antoine is that if you want to be a running back, you're going to be held to the standard of running backs with the conditioning test, with everything you do has to be done like running back, and we can't have amendments to it because of your weight. And he has bought into every part of the nutrition, the weight lift, the training, taking care of his body, and I mean, he's one of the guys that has really, I think, can be a person to point to when we talk about how our program develops players.
And then I was going to ask about game attendance. I know the marketing logistics is outside of you, but what are the ramifications like for your program if you guys can fill this thing? How does it help you with recruiting? I'm assuming the current players care a lot about what that looks like, maybe.
I think current players care about having the opportunity to play at the next level. If you're a real competitor, you'll play in front of 100,000 or you'll play in front of one. And, we all know what this area brings. It's the gift and the curse of being in a great metropolitan area where there are a lot of things to do. There's pro teams here, unlike some of these small towns, where it maybe doesn't benefit us in attendance all the time. It really benefits us in life after football and being able to give our guys access to what this community brings. Now, I can tell you, I've been here when we filled the shell. We're kind of fair weather fans in this area. We come support you when you're up, and so it's our job to put a product out that's moving upward that makes people want to come see. And I can tell you, my phone's been ringing off the hook with all these people asking for tickets now and all of a sudden, and I'll tell them, hey, if you weren't here from the start, don't call me now.
Hey, Coach. Now that the defense has had a few really good performances against some really good teams, how has your perception of that side of the ball changed here in Week 6 compared to what you thought going into the season?
It hasn't changed. We knew that we had a veteran front seven. We've sprinkled in some really talented young players like Barham and Caleb Wheatland, and Gavin Gibson has come in and played a lot of snaps for us, and then the two young safeties are both playing pretty well. We still got a lot of room to grow, though. I mean, there's still, we can't just play a good second half. We've got to figure out how to do things in the first half to minimize those opportunities the teams have had against us. But I can tell you, as a whole, because of the culture that's been created down in that locker room, our guys are playing hard. But we still got a lot of room to grow, and to me, we're we're chasing it. We're trying to chase that ability to play the perfect game, and we're still a little further away, or further away than we want to be. But you know what? We'll continue to work to get there.
Coach, kind of a sillier question, but the DJ Khaled video that you guys posted, what was the reaction to that in the locker room, and what kind of impact can that have for your program, just in terms of a cultural relevancy?
You know, I don't even know what the reaction was in the locker room. You know, I'm very fortunate that, you know, I know quite a few people. My college roommate works for the Jordan brand. DJ Khaled's a Jordan brand, and my college roommate happened to be here for the game this weekend, flew back to Miami, and I guess he had a meeting with Khaled and basically said he was up at the Maryland game. He said he'd watched it maybe, and then they sent me the video to my phone. And I was like, where'd this come from? And so I sent it over to our media people and said, do what you can with it. If it helps us, I mean, it keeps us relevant.
All right. My bad. Hey, Coach. I was want to get your thoughts on Gavin Gibson. You just mentioned him. Just what have you seen from him so far?
Yeah, I mean, Gavin's one of those guys. He came in as a corner, can play nickel, really versatile young player. But I think the biggest thing that jumps out is that, you know, it's like a baby in the crib when you throw a snake in there. They don't really know that it's a snake, so they kind of play with it. Gavin's just so young that he doesn't even know what he's doing, and it's not afraid of anything because he hasn't been conditioned by getting beat or missing plays or missing tackle. He just goes out and plays. And to me, that's kind of the genesis of how I want us all to play. Just not afraid to fail, not afraid to make mistakes. And when you play young players, and that's what we try to do, is develop these young guys, you get that type of energy. So I love seeing 26 out there, the way he plays. He doesn't always do it right. He makes mistakes, but he just plays. And to me, he'll be better for it in the years to come. Why you laugh about DJ Khaled, man?
Jordan's. It makes sense now.